They say humility costs nothing, but arrogance can cost you everything. Ava Johnson had worked at Viridian Investments for 5 years. Quiet, dedicated, and brilliant, she was the one who stayed late when everyone else went home, fixing reports her boss messed up and covering mistakes without complaint. But to her boss, Mr. Hargrove, none of that mattered. One morning, he strolled over with that smug grin he always wore, leaning on her desk like he owned the world. "Ava," he said, "we're moving in a new direction. You're just not a fit here anymore. Before we start, hit that like and subscribe button, then comment where you're watching from. Your support keeps these powerful stories coming." The words hit her like a slap. She blinked, confused. "Not a fit? My reports have led this department for 3 quarters straight." Hargrove smirked, adjusting his cufflinks. "You're fine, Ava. But this firm needs people who belong here. You understand, right?" His tone carried poison wrapped in politeness. The room went silent. People stopped typing, pretending not to listen. Ava's voice was soft but steady. "You mean people who look like you?" Hargrove chuckled. "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to," she replied. Security was called. As she packed her desk, tears threatened but didn't fall. She looked him in the eye and said, "One day, you'll answer to someone who looks exactly like me." He laughed. Everyone else did too. But Ava walked out with her head high, her dignity intact. That night, sitting alone in her apartment, bills piled beside her, the city lights blurry through her tears, she got a call from her best friend, Monica. "Girl, I can't believe they fired you. You carried that department." Ava sighed. "Yeah. I carried it right into their comfort zone." "Don't let them break you," Monica said. "You're too brilliant for them anyway." Ava smiled sadly. "Brilliant doesn't pay rent." Then she noticed an unopened email on her laptop, subject line, Executive Leadership Fellowship, Final Stage Interview. She had applied months ago, half believing it was a long shot. "Open it," Monica urged. Ava hesitated, then clicked. Her breath caught. "Oh my God. I got it." Monica screamed through the phone, "I told you. God doesn't close one door without kicking another wide open." Ava laughed through her tears. That night, she whispered to herself, "Maybe this isn't the end. Maybe it's the beginning." 6 months later, Ava walked into a towering glass building wearing a navy suit and a new kind of confidence. She'd completed one of the toughest leadership programs in the country. Her name was now whispered in rooms she used to be excluded from. She had learned how to lead, and how to fight with grace. Then came the call from Viridian headquarters. They wanted her to return, not as an employee, but as the new regional director. When she walked back into that same office, the air went still. Hargrove was pacing near the conference table, clearly anxious about the new boss arriving. He straightened his tie, expecting someone powerful, someone intimidating, but not her. When the receptionist announced, "Please welcome Ms. Ava Johnson, our new Director of Regional Operations," Hargrove's smirk disappeared. Ava walked in, poised and composed, her eyes never leaving his. "Good morning," she said. "It's good to be back." The whispers in the room grew louder. Hargrove stammered, "Ava. I didn't know that I'd be the one sitting in this chair," she said calmly, placing her briefcase on the table. "Neither did I. But life's full of surprises." She opened her folder. "Effective immediately, I'll be reviewing all managerial conduct and termination decisions from the last year. Starting with yours." The silence was suffocating. Hargrove turned pale. "Ava, listen, that was business, not personal." She leaned forward, her voice low but sharp. "It became personal when you made it about who I was instead of what I did." The staff looked on, some grinning quietly, others frozen. "But don't worry," Ava continued, "I believe in fairness. You'll get the same due process you denied me." She stood tall, the room completely under her control. "That's the difference between you and me. I lead with integrity, not ego." Later that evening, as the office emptied out, Ava sat in her new corner office, the same one that used to belong to him. She gazed at the city lights and took a deep breath. Monica called again, her voice full of joy. "So, Ms. Director, how does it feel sitting in the boss's chair?" Ava chuckled. "It feels poetic. But this isn't revenge, Mon. It's justice. I just want to make sure no one else goes through what I did." "You're rewriting the rules," Monica said proudly. "And you're doing it your way." Ava smiled. "Maybe that's the lesson, never let someone else define your worth. Prove it yourself." She turned off the light, heading toward the elevator. But as she reached the parking lot, her phone buzzed. An unknown number flashed on the screen. She frowned and opened the message. It read, "You think you've won? You have no idea who you're up against." Ava froze, scanning the lot. A black car sat idling across from hers, headlights dim, a shadowed figure inside. Her jaw tightened. The wind blew through her hair as she whispered, "Then let's find out." The engine in the distance roared, then went silent. Ava stared into the darkness, calm but alert, realizing her battle wasn't over, it was just evolving. The camera zooms in on her determined eyes as the narrator says softly, "When you rise above hate, don't be surprised when the system that built it comes after you. Because success doesn't end the fight, it only changes the battlefield." The rain hit the windows of Viridian Investments that morning as Ava Johnson walked in, head held high, clutching her worn leather folder. She'd been at this company for 7 years, working twice as hard for half the recognition, and today, she was supposed to get the promotion she'd earned. But when she stepped into the conference room, her manager, Mr. Hargrove, smirked like he was about to crush someone's dream. "Ava," he said smoothly, "we've decided to go in another direction." She blinked. "Another direction? I've led every major account this year." He shrugged. "You're talented, but this role needs someone more seasoned. You understand." The word seasoned burned in her chest. It wasn't about experience, it was about who he thought belonged in power. She clenched her jaw and said softly, "Yes, sir." Then she walked out, tears mixing with rain, whispering to herself, "They'll see." That night, she got a call from HR asking her to come in early for a departmental restructuring. Her gut told her it wasn't good. The next morning, the office was quiet when she arrived. Hargrove was waiting by her desk, holding a manila envelope. "Ava," he said with fake sympathy, "your position's being eliminated." She froze. "You're firing me?" He smirked. "It's just business." She stared at him, rage trembling in her voice. "After everything I've built here?" He leaned closer. "You people always get emotional. Don't make a scene." She stood silent, holding back tears, then grabbed her bag and walked out without another word. As she pushed through the revolving doors, a voice called from behind. "Miss Johnson." She turned. A woman in a navy suit extended her hand. "I'm Dana Wells, corporate counsel for Viridian's board. I need you to come with me." Ava hesitated, then followed her to the top floor, the executive suite she'd never been allowed to enter. Inside, the boardroom was filled with executives. Dana motioned for her to sit. "Ms. Johnson, after reviewing recent misconduct claims, we've made a leadership change." The door opened. Hargrove walked in, smiling confidently, until he froze. At the head of the table sat the CEO, an older black woman with piercing eyes. "Mr. Hargrove," she said coldly, "meet your replacement." She turned to Ava. "Congratulations, Director Johnson." The room fell silent. Hargrove's smirk vanished. "Director," he stammered. "This must be a joke." The CEO didn't blink. "No joke. You're terminated effective immediately." Ava stared in disbelief as security escorted him out. Her heart pounded, tears threatening to fall, not from sadness, but from victory. The same people who once looked down on her now stood and shook her hand. Days passed. Ava stepped fully into her new role, leading meetings, making the changes she once dreamed of. But success came with shadows. One evening, while reviewing files, she noticed something odd: records missing, funds misallocated, names connected to Hargrove's past deals. She frowned. He was hiding something. The next morning, she called for an internal audit. By noon, whispers spread again, not about her promotion, but about her courage. Some admired her, others plotted quietly. A week later, she received an anonymous email: "Stop digging or you'll regret it." She ignored it. That night, as she left the office, her car tires were slashed. She called security, but no one saw anything. The next day, her assistant found an envelope on her desk, inside, a single sheet of paper with 4 words, "They still run things." Ava crumpled it in her fist. "Not anymore," she whispered. When the audit results came back, everything pointed to Hargrove, but it also revealed something bigger. The company had been funneling money into a shell firm owned by a powerful investor connected to several board members. Ava presented the evidence at the next meeting. The room fell silent as she laid out every detail, every lie, every theft. "You thought you could bury the truth," she said, voice trembling with controlled fire, "but you forgot who's holding the shovel now." Mr. Crane, the acting VP, leaned forward. "Ms. Johnson, do you realize what you're accusing us of?" Ava met his eyes. "I'm not accusing. I'm proving." She hit play on the recording she'd found, Hargrove's voice on the phone with one of the investors: "The girl's gone. Once she's out, we move the money." The board erupted. Crane turned pale. This can't leave this room." Ava stood. "It already has. Every file, every call, every number, sent to the SEC and the media." Gasps filled the room. The CEO stood, smiling faintly. "You've done what none of them had the courage to do." Ava exhaled, years of pain turning to power. "I just did what was right." The story broke the next morning. News headlines exposed Viridian's corruption, and Ava became a symbol of integrity and resilience. The city hailed her as the woman who brought down corporate greed from the inside. Weeks later, she visited her old neighborhood. Kids played in the street she grew up on. An old friend shouted, "Look at you now, boss lady." She smiled. "I'm just getting started." But as she walked away, her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A deep voice said, "Director Johnson, you think this is over?" She froze. "Who is this?" The voice chuckled darkly. "You exposed Viridian." But Viridian was only one branch of the tree. We were the roots. The line went dead. Ava stood still, the city lights flickering around her. She looked up at the sky, determination returning to her eyes. "Then I'll dig deeper." The narrator's voice fades in. They tried to silence her, but truth has a voice that never fades. When justice rises once, it doesn't stop, it spreads. Because power without accountability is just another system waiting to fall. The night after that call, Ava couldn't sleep. The words, "We were the roots," echoed in her mind like a warning. She sat by her window, watching the rain trace down the glass, thinking about everything she had fought through, the humiliation, the firings, the whispers. She'd torn down one empire of greed, but now she realized it was only the surface. Still, fear wasn't in her nature. Not anymore. The next morning, she walked into Viridian headquarters, not as the frightened employee they once dismissed, but as the woman who now set the tone. Cameras flashed, journalists waited, and the nation watched. "Ms. Johnson," one reporter shouted, "what's your next move now that the corruption's been exposed?" Ava paused, looked directly into the camera, and said, "To build something better. To make sure no one ever has to fight this hard just to be treated right." The clip went viral. Across the country, people shared her story, calling her the woman who fought back. But behind the praise, danger still lingered. That evening, as she packed up her office for the last time, the CEO approached her quietly. "You did what I couldn't," the older woman said softly. "But be careful. Power doesn't die, it moves." Ava smiled faintly. "Then I'll be ready when it moves again." She turned in her keycard, walked out of the building, and stood beneath the neon lights of the city, free, fearless, and finally in control. The same doors that once closed in her face had opened because she refused to bow down. A few months later, she launched her own firm, Rise Consulting, dedicated to helping minority entrepreneurs and whistleblowers fight corporate injustice. Her story became a movement, inspiring others to speak up, to demand more, to never settle for less. But one evening, as she prepared for a keynote speech, a package arrived at her office, no sender, no return address. Inside was a silver flash drive and a single note that read, "You exposed the tree. Now it's time to burn the forest." Ava stared at it for a long moment, her reflection shining faintly on the metal surface. Then she looked up, determination blazing in her eyes. "Then let's finish what we started." The narrator's voice closes softly. Sometimes justice isn't found in courtrooms or titles, it's in the courage to keep fighting, even when the system thinks it's already won. The end. Comment below if you know you enjoyed the story. Also don't forget to follow, subscribe and turn on the notification button for more stories coming up.